In this video, I'm going to show you what it's like to attempt UTMB Snowdonia. Will I finish it? Probably not. Spoiler alert, that's fucking difficult. I'm definitely stopping at the next checkpoint. The tagline of Ultra Trail Snowdonia is beautiful beyond belief, savage beyond reason. Does it live up to that claim? Hopefully this video will give you a rough idea what the 50k race was like this year. Registration and race start is in Clanberis. I had a slight panic because I forgot a head torch. I was able to buy one from a supplier in the race village. I saw a few people who'd either forgotten a bivvy bag or whistle. The lesson is, remember to double check your kit. The 50k race started in 3 waves between 7:30 and 8 o'clock in the morning. I was in the last heat. It's worth noting that the cut-offs for the checkpoint do not take into account your wave. If you're in the first one, you will get more time than the last wave. The weather forecast was for a hot sunny day. I'd been ill in the run up to the event and I don't perform well in sunny, warm weather, so I'd already decided my day would end at checkpoint 2. So I'd arranged that my wife would meet me there and collect me. I didn't think I'd have it in me to do the whole thing. This meant I could enjoy my run without any pressure of trying to get to the end. I live in Scotland and have a young toddler, so there was no opportunity to recce the route in advance. I had been to North Wales once before. I'd done one of the UK's scariest ridge walks, Grib Groch. I hadn't intended to do it. I took a wrong turn, followed the wrong group, and ended up in a far more dangerous walk than I'd intended. Hopefully, I wouldn't get lost today. The run started with a short flash section through town to the entrance to the Clanberis path, which winds up to Snowdon, roughly following the route of the Snowdon train. This runs from the village to the top of the mountain. The first section was steep and most people started walking and didn't really stop walking until they got to the top. The path was very busy. Lots of groups of walkers were heading either up or down. I passed one woman who said, "I can't believe that running event is on again. This happened last year too." I think if it happened once, she'd check if it was on the next time she visited, especially as the date is roughly the same as last year. The path starts off good, but does have sections that are rockier. I would say if I was fully fit, then the path is very runnable. It's probably a good opportunity to build up some time, as there are sections later that are definitely not runnable. The mandatory amount of water to carry was 1 litre, but I chose to take 2 litres. I took more because of the warm weather forecast, but also because of the previous year there had been complaints about aid stations running out of water. I think 2 litres was perfect for me. I never felt I was running short and I was able to refill at the aid stations. I have to admit, I was a bit disappointed by the aid stations. In the first 30k, there's only 1 water stop and 1 full aid station, but it had very little in it. There was a selection of snacks, but when I went to get one, I was told they were there for the 100k runners only. So considering how hard the route is and the fact it can take 6 to 7 hours to do the first 30k, I don't think it's unreasonable to expect some better quality snacks at the stop. Runners are paying a lot of money to take part, and it doesn't cost much to get some crisps or sweets. Thankfully, this wasn't a big issue as I had enough food in my backpack to keep me going, but it would have been nice to have the opportunity to pick up an unhealthy treat. As you see later on, I do use the cafe at the top of Snowdon to get something. Most people walk to the summit, but there is another option. You could get the train. The train line, which unsurprisingly is Britain's highest, has been in existence since 1896. Over 12 million visitors have used it to visit the summit. There are 2 different types of train en route, a heritage steam carriage that seats 34 passengers or a diesel locomotive that seats 60. The return journey on both takes 2.5 hours, which includes a 30-minute stop at the top. It took me 90 minutes to reach the top, which means the train beat me. At the top there was a volunteer marking the way down to ensure no one headed to the summit. The down path is called the Pig Track. It is one of the shortest routes down, but it is very rugged and challenging. The path leads along the foothills of Grib Groch. This is the mountain I mentioned earlier that I climbed accidentally. Grib Groch is a 500 metre knife-edge ridge with no escape route. I know, because I tried to escape and I couldn't. The dry weather meant the path was in good condition. I never felt like I'd slip. But it was difficult to run. I managed short bursts, but it was just too busy to be able to get into a good flow. I lost count of how many people I met who were heading up the mountain. Make sure to stop and look backwards as there are great views of Snowdon. I hadn't eaten any food up until now, so I took the opportunity to eat on the way down. I use Veloforte chews throughout the race. They are expensive, but I find them very tasty and very easy in the stomach. Try the lemon and ginger flavour.
I also like Torque gels. They do a rhubarb and custard flavoured one. I think they're great, but it's probably more of an acquired taste. You might have noticed that I've not used poles at any point. I did have some with me, but I was saving them until my legs felt tired. Personally, I only use them for going uphill. I find they slow me down when going downhill. Snowdon is 1,085 metres tall. It's the highest mountain in the UK outside of Scotland. The last time I was here, I watched a man stand on the summit and shout, "I'm the highest man in Britain." 2 seconds later, someone else shouted, "No, you're not. Ben Nevis is higher." So, Snowdon is only the 57th highest mountain in Britain. I'd guess it's one of the most popular. There wasn't a moment during the race when I wasn't surrounded by at least one or two other people. Supposedly 500,000 people come here every year. There was a water stop in the car park, but I had enough water, so I didn't stop. The next section was very runnable, a mixture of good trail paths and fire track roads. I made a mistake at one point and put my hand down to steady myself on what I thought was heather, was actually a very prickly gorse-like plant. I noticed a few people ahead of me who had race numbers from earlier heats, which meant I'd made up time. I was pleased to know that I wasn't last. You are allowed to use headphones during the race. I had brought some as I was hoping I could listen to the Celtic Rangers football match, but there was very little mobile signal on this side of the mountain. Instead, I had to rely on text updates from my brother. The good news is Celtic won, which gave me a boost. I'd read that the next section was flat-ish with some trees for shade. By now I was starting to feel a little bit tired. It had taken me 3 hours 30 minutes to get to checkpoint 1. I'd refilled my water, but the snacks were pretty poor quality, so I ignored them. I had plenty of food on me. There's nothing too technical in this section, and there's quite a few opportunities to run. I decided to start using my poles, but because I was holding a camera, I could only use one of them. I enjoy the challenge of trying to film the race, but at the same time, I think it does hold me back just a little bit. Whilst running along the road to these steps, a number of cyclists passed by. They were triathletes who were taking part in the Rock Wales event. This is an extreme triathlon that starts on Abersoch Beach at 8 AM with a 1500 metre swim, then heads for 50 kilometres on the bike to Nant, then takes the toughest route up the summit to Snowdon, and then back down again, and then 50 kilometre bike ride again, finally finishing on Abersoch Beach with a 1 kilometre run. As I walked up the path, a number of athletes in tri-kit were running down. I recognised one of them as the partner of a member of Glasgow Triathlon Club. It was a boost to see someone I recognised, even if it was just for a second. By now the day was very warm, I'd guess 25 degrees Celsius in the valley. I was jealous of all the folk swimming in the rock pools. That would have been a nice way to cool down. I think the lack of a recce of this bit of the course was a bonus. If I'd known just how long this section would be, then I don't think I'd have started. This section was a tough slog. It is steeper than it looks on camera, and the weather was very hot by this point. A number of runners stopped to take a break. It's not a long climb, but the surface is loose and uneven. I think my fitness was pretty good going into the race. I'd completed 3 marathons in the last 5 months and done lots of long, hilly runs around the 30 kilometre mark. The only thing I hadn't done was climb any mountains. Having a toddler at home meant I wasn't able to get out for big hill days. It would have been unfair on my wife to disappear off for 7 or 8 hours, which, with driving, is likely how long I'd have been away for. I think if the weather was cooler and I hadn't been ill in the run-up to the race, then I'd have tried to carry on and finish. But it's easy to say that in retrospect. At this point in time, I was glad that I was finishing at checkpoint 2. My legs were starting to get tired, but I was looking forward to reaching the Summit Cafe, and I was really hoping I would have some chocolate available. there was still a lot of other runners around, although we were spread out a little. I enjoyed the nice views across to Crib Croch and Snowdon. There was some easy scrambling, the rocks were dry, so it was pretty straightforward to get through it. I imagine it would be tricky if the weather was poor. The last section is a ridgeline, but it's not very exposed. I felt perfectly safe heading along it. By now, I was wondering if I'd ever see the cafe. I was desperate for some chocolate and a drink of Coke. There's only so many gels I can eat before my taste buds demand a change. At last, I spotted the cafe. Now, I hoped that there wouldn't be a big queue of runners. There was. Amusingly, there was a big sign up saying the train is sold out, so don't even ask. I imagine lots of tired runners had hoped to get on and get home. I managed to get a chocolate brownie, a bottle of Coke, a bottle of Fanta and a packet of crisps. The diet of a man desperate for something sweet and something salty. It was delicious. There was a big queue to head to the summit, so I ignored it and started the descent. The path down was easy and very runnable. It's a good place to make up lost time. I wasn't in a rush, so I sauntered down at my leisure whilst munching on crisps.
A quick review of the sections I did complete of the race. That was absolutely brutal. I think the tricky part was two things. The weather, which has been 20 degrees plus, 25 degrees at some points today, which meant that it was very difficult to run because you just got hot and sweaty and it was hard work. And the paths make it very tricky to run as well. They're very uneven, especially probably everything really, and until you're coming down to the second checkpoint. I think of about 30k. I probably ran 5k of it, maybe at most. The rest of it was definitely walking, and even if I had been able to run, I don't think I would have, because it was just too difficult. Paths were also very busy, especially coming down off Snowdon, down big paths. Overall, am I glad that I did the race? Yes. It's absolutely stunning scenery, beautiful part of the world. I'm quite happy I only did 2 hills. I have this theory, you can call it Todd theory, that you only need to climb 1 hill, because 1 hill is 100% enjoyment. You go up, you get a nice view, you go down, you have your lunch, you eat some cake, 100% enjoyment. If you do 2 hills, you go up, you go down, you go up again, maybe the view's not as good the second time, you go down, lunch is probably sold out, probably no cake, it's only 50% enjoyment. So I think for every hill you add, you take away the percentage of enjoyment factor. 1 hill, 100%, 2 hills, 50%, 3 hills, 33%. I think that's definitely my feelings today, that 1 hill was more than enough.
This is where my race ended. Checkpoint food here was not very good, but I did find this sign amusing. Who knew nuts contained nuts? After the race, I got a burrito and a sticker.